Again, we don't at this point we don't know if that was a confirmed tornado or not, but it certainly looked tight. But notice this one has really broadened out here over the last a couple of minutes here, but it's going to be a close call on the northern part of Paris there between Porter Court again. So you guys are under the gun still, and that warning will continue. Back to the west of that, here's the one that potentially moved through Bradford as it's continued to move off to the northeast. If you're in Gleason or anywhere near the Gleason area, you certainly want to still be in your tornado shelter at this point. Okay, there we go. Was that the new scan that came in?
Yes.
There.
Yes,
okay.
And also, Mo, getting a lot of lightning. If we can go to Weather Source 2 just a moment,
yeah.
TVM2. Pretty impressive looking on the weather cam here as well as we're pointing off into these storms. So definitely a dangerous situation going on this morning. As you mentioned, a lot of people getting up, trying to get ready for school, work. Definitely stay weather aware to what's going on today. We're looking to the northwest into these storms, which is Mo mentioned, we've got several notches, about 3 notches along this storm line, any of which could be tornadic or indicating a tornado.
Light show, basically, from here in
Absolutely.
Jackson.
And,
you're looking north, you're seeing all the lightning from those storms.
One of the common things with tornadic storms is numerous amounts of lightning. That's as old as you can get in these, looking at these types of systems.
Anytime we start seeing that clustering like that, and then, of course, those notches developing along the line, that's a telltale sign. It's about to get busy for us, and that's exactly what's happened here so far. So let's go and take a wide view out again, Brian. And,
we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to track this for Mo, and he's going to point us in the right direction.
That's a flash flood warning. It looks like it's going to be basically for the southern half of Weakley County. If you could look at the totals on that, I'm kind of curious what they're estimating on those totals. I'm probably at least 2-3 inches over the last hour or so here. If you query the warning itself, you should be able to query the warning itself, and they should have the detailed information there to let us know just about how much rain has fallen. It's been a lot. It's probably at least been 2, maybe 3 inches, and that has happened over the last 2 hours. So again, not only do we have the tornado threat, but we also have the flash flooding threat as well. So you have to make sure you do not cross those flooded roadways. So let's get back to the tornado threat here again. We've got another notch just southwest of Trenton. That's not rotating, is it? If we could take a look at that real quick. I know I'm asking a lot here. There we go. Notice that purple area there? That's the range. It's what we call range floating. That's the outer limit of the Paducah radar site. So again, that's what we're shooting out of. So that we're looking pretty high up in the storms here. So that we haven't had a confirmation at this point on the ground that the tornado was on the ground. But if we have any damage, it's likely going to be just to the north and east of Trenton, between Trenton and Bradford, and then perhaps into parts of southern Weakley County as well. So again, otherwise, again, wish we had the Memphis site. We would have a better view of what's going on in western Gibson County. Right now, it's just a lot of heavy rain and a lot of lightning. I think we did a query on the lightning earlier, and we had over almost 300 strikes over the last 10 minutes at times along this line, essentially.
Very impressive rainfall rates, too.
Absolutely. This is almost 2 inches. This is your rainfall rate, almost 2 inches per hour. So that is a blinding rain. You can't see nothing with that. So let's go back and let's do a wide view, take a look at what's going on across all of West Tennessee. I know you all probably wonder what is going on south of I-40, because absolutely nothing's going on there. I-40, it's just warm and very humid there. Don't worry, your turn is coming a little bit later on this morning. We are not out of the woods yet. The cold front is still well to our west at this point, and it's not going to clear us until about this afternoon. Back to the west of that, we still have, in addition to the rain that has already fallen in these areas, you have, notice this train continues all the way back to the Mississippi River, so you have a lot more rain to go. So flooding issues, perhaps an emergency situation might emerge here between now and the next couple of hours with the flooding that could be occurring just south of a line between Sharon, Dresden, and we'll say Cottage Grove there in far western Henry County this morning. So any additional information from the National Weather Service?
Mo, we've got a report of trees on a house. This is at Old Dyersburg Road. I'm not going to give the direct address there, but right there on Old Dyersburg Dyersburg
Oh,
Road.
Dyersburg Road.
Trees are down.
We got some trees down on the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have some
starting to
damage.
get wind damage indications that this could be on the ground.
So this very much could have been a tornado on the ground, unfortunately. So that would have been, I'm assuming, I'm not exactly sure. Okay, it looks like they finally chopped Gibson County out of that tornado warning. So Gibson County no longer under, you're all clear in Gibson County on the tornado threat. The flooding is still absolutely continuing in parts of northeastern parts of Gibson County. But the tornado threat has shifted out of Gibson County and is now in southern Weakley County specifically. Right now, probably the biggest threat is about in Gleason right now and making its way off to the northeast of that. If you can go back over to velocity, we'll take a look at that circulation. I'm going to guess it's probably about here where we have this notch developing. We've got a core that's developed here. Okay, that's good. Not nearly as pronounced here on velocity, but we do still have a little bit of circulation right here. We've got the wind blowing towards the radar, that's green, and the wind's blowing away from the radar, that's red. And we've got that just to the southwest of Gleason. So if that is a tornado and it's still on the ground, then it's in Gleason right now. And it's going to continue to work its way off to the north and east there into parts of southwestern Henry County this morning. In addition to that, we had the other tornado warning that had some broad circulation just north of Paris, but right now that one looks pretty broad right now, so that's looking a lot better than it did a few minutes ago here. But if you're watching us from what is that? I forget the county. That's right over the border there in Henry County. But it's going to be a close call there on Highway 79. If we've got some viewers just over the river, you need to be in your shelter in just over the border of Henry and Benton counties there. There is that same rotation that may have produced a tornado just to the north. Paris continues to work its way just about to cross the Tennessee River into Middle Tennessee there. So you need to be in your tornado shelter as well. That one right there. But it looks like it has weakened considerably over the last 10 minutes or so. So hopefully that trend continues here. We haven't had any new circulations to try to spin up here in the last, sweating a bit here. It's a little hot in the studio, huh? But again, right now, if you're in the Gleason community, if we can bring up the tornado safety tips here at the moment. And while that's up, I'm going to go ahead and wipe my brow here a bit as it is quite warm here in the studio. But again, you want to be in the interior room. You want as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. We've got, and then of course, away from windows and walls, of course, lowest floor possible. And then, of course, a closet if you've got it, basement if you've got that is the best spot you could potentially be. And of course, we've got, you want to be inside a sturdy building, of course, staying away from power lines. And of course, in addition to the tornado threat, of course, we've got the flash flooding threat as well. So again, this area has seen at least 2 to 3 inches of rain just over the last hour and a half or so. So we've got flooding that's occurring as well as folks are trying to head off to work and or school. But the good news is no additional rotation is showing up on the backside of this line, but we are not done, especially after the sun starts to rise here after about 6. We add more instability to the atmosphere, and we are in the warm sector. So the odds of additional development, additional warnings today is certainly going to be there for the rest of the morning into this afternoon as well. So again, the only tornado warnings we have left now at this point, again, we've got southern Weakley County and most of Henry County still under a tornado warning. Back to the west of that, we've just got some plain old heavy rain right now to the north of Brownsville, to the west there in parts of Tipton and Lauderdale counties. It's very heavy rain, frequent lightning, and of course some flooding absolutely possible as well. So we certainly want to take it easy as you head off to work and or school this morning. And if you're in Weakley County or Henry County, it's still, I wouldn't go. Just hang on for about another 30, 40 minutes here. Let's get these areas of rotation out of here before you're heading off to wherever you got to go here, and then we'll kind of assess from there at this point. So any additional information from National Weather Service?
Okay, Mo, we're just the damage report of trees on a house there in Old Dyersburg Road. I'm going to give you just a moment here to take a break. We got a flash flood warning for Gibson County until 6:45. I know Mo and I have been in tracking this line of storms into the early morning, and one thing that we've noticed is these storms are training along, which can provide a major flooding potential. And in fact, as I go back about an hour here forward, you can see how those thunderstorms have been kind of lining up right through the Haywood, Crockett, Gibson, Weakley, and Henry County areas. Of course, just one batch of rain after another, that can be very dangerous in these storms as well. And what we're doing right now, continuing to track these inflow notches within these storms, which we've seen quite a few, 3 or 4 notches in this line of storms.
This one here.
Yeah,
it looks like that one might be tightening back up again there just northeast of Paris.
Tornado warning. This is going to be for Henry, Weakley, and this will be until 5:15. So at least 5 more minutes to go on that, and I think they'll continue to keep that at least until the time of expiration. Also, a tornado warning right now. This is going to be for Henry and Weakley counties. And Mo, something I know we've been looking at this, and even in the reflectivity, the outline of that precipitation, that inflow notch, we very well could have had a tornado touching down out of a couple of these notches that we've been looking at, the inflow notches where we've seen those winds going away from the radar and towards the radar. Pretty strong indications that we could have had at least a small tornado on the ground as we're continuing to... The good news is
it doesn't look like we've got a long track tornado.
Right, yes.
One, they're still in a line. That we don't see isolated individual cells. That's when we get the long track tornado. So it doesn't look like it's been continuously on the ground, but it may have been on the ground at times here over the last 30 minutes or so, anywhere between basically, we'll say just east of Trenton or south and east of Trenton, near Bradford, if not in Bradford itself, over towards just south of Greenfield, then Gleason, and it might have touched down a couple times in that time frame. But I don't think it's been, if it was a tornado, I don't think it was on the ground the whole time. And again, don't try to go see these. You're not going to, in this kind of situation, it's likely rain wrapped.
Lightning,
that means
you can
the rain is
completely
complete encircling the tornado. You're not going to see it. So do not go out to see these storms or try to see that tornado. It is more likely going to be rain wrapped in anyways.
All right, Mo, I'm going to let you get back to tracking. I'm going to drive the radar here and let me know if you need a break, my friend. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it. Brian is always there for me. We've got, again, a couple of notches here that we're still keeping an eye on. This one just east of Greenfield here, another notch there. How about, let's take a look at, again, the problem here this morning is about 3 o'clock, we lost the Memphis radar site. So we don't have the highest resolution data. So we're shooting all the way out of Paducah right now. And so it's really hard to determine because the beam is actually shooting a little bit higher up. It's probably up at 10 to 15,000 feet up in the air. So what we're looking at is more than likely a mesocyclone rather than a wall cloud or even a tornado on the ground. So that we can't tell the difference, and we haven't had much ground truth reports other than the tree on the house on Old Dyer Road or Dyersburg Road, I believe it was. That we do have some weak rotation now, just to the we'll say. Get my bearings here. There is right on the Weakley and Henry County line. The other circulation, the one that was just north of Paris, the first one, that has moved over and crossed the Tennessee River at this point. And then, of course, okay, there we go. So that was the initial one. Then that one... I think Brian's going backwards there. There we go. There we go. Oh, you're good. There we go. So that's going to continue to work its way towards the northeastern part of the county. That has crossed the Tennessee River. That's out of here. The second circulation that we were concerned it was going to be a direct hit for Paris, it has weakened. And you see how fast this can change for us in just that 7 or 10 minutes or so. That circulation has weakened considerably. And that's basically what we're dealing with today. Just that quickly, a tornado can potentially form out of the the rotation that we're seeing there on a radar at times. So again, they're very hard to track as a result, and that unfortunately is going to be the case for the rest of the afternoon as well, because the threat is not over with. Let's go ahead and take a wide view, just take a look at everything that's going on right now, and kind of get our bearings on what's going on at the moment. Again, we still have a warm front that's lifting north and out of here, but to the south of that is the warm sector. The cold front still all the way back west of Little Rock. So we have got a while to go here before we're completely out of the woods here. And then once the sun comes out, we add more instability to it as well. So we could see this sort of fill in between now and late morning, early afternoon hours. So again, we're not quite out of the woods just yet there. But again, that warm front will continue to lift to the north, and that will take the current rotations with it. But again, we may see additional activity redevelop as we go through the rest of the morning. So the tornado threat certainly not over with. Do we have a graphic for the new tornado warning yet? I know they reissued that. I'm not sure who's all included in that, because right now technically the original tornado warning has expired. It's expired at 5 o'clock, and we're at I can't see the time. I'm blind here.
Yeah, it looks like they expired the one that was that encompassed most of Gibson County. It looks like the new polygon just encompasses the very eastern part of Gibson County right now, and it goes into the Henry County area, or I should say Weakley County, eastern Weakley County, and Henry County under the current warning.
Okay, so basically where we have the enhanced risk still. So essentially from about Highway 45 points east are under the new tornado watch, even though not to say anyone west of that. Again, if you're basically east of that cold front, you're still under the threat today, and that's all of us. And that's going to be the case through about noon today. So let's go ahead and okay, so it looks like the initial tornado warning has been chopped out of Weakley County. We just have the one that has the weak circulation. Looks like might be starting to pulse up again here. We're starting to see some higher returns showing up here, indicating some maybe a lot bigger ice crystals showing up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That maybe some hail trying to develop, indicating a strong updraft is in that storm and flow. If we can take a look at the velocity, kind of confirm that.
Okay,
here.
Velocity's coming up.
We'll take a look at velocity to confirm if that is trying to spin back up
about
here.
3, 2, 1. There's velocity. Okay, let me take off the premium now red there. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So here's the original one, or the second one, I should say. That one's continued to work its way off to the northeast there, and parts of northeastern Henry County continues to work over to the border towards the Tennessee River. And then the other one was the one near Gleason, and now that's moved into Henry County. So technically, I think we're in good shape in Weakley County now for the tornado threat, at least. Right now, we're still going to be watching you guys in Henry County and just north of Paris, or pretty much from Paris and just points north of Paris there in Henry County, as that particular circulation, it's a lot weaker than the last two that have gone through there. Yeah. But it continues to work its way into the area, and we'll keep an eye on that, and then we'll adjust, and I'll have to adjust the fronts, it looks like there, and we'll get the latest position on that. Otherwise, the other big issue this morning, not just the tornadoes, is the flooding, or localized flooding. Specifically, we've got some flash flooding occurring because we've picked up 2-3 inches or more of rain. So a lot of the streams are elevated at this point thanks to the training of heavy rain and thunderstorms, which, by the way, is ongoing. Let's go back to our regular view. So I know that you all aren't used to seeing there we go. So we'll take a look at the traditional view. It is still raining very heavily across all of Weakley County. The tornadic part of that storm has moved out of Weakley County now into parts of far western Henry County at this point. West of that, it is still raining very heavily, but notice how everything looks a lot more disheveled, if you would, to the west of that. Notice this is not organized at all, thankfully, and hopefully it doesn't become any more organized than that. But right now, looks like we're starting to wind down just a little bit here, at least from the severe weather tornado threat. Certainly the heavy rain, though, will continue, and the flood threat will be continuing as well as we go over the next couple of hours, several hours here across the region. So certainly some flooding, perhaps if you got any damage reports, make sure to get that relayed to us, and we'll try to get that information over to the National Weather Service as well. Flash flood warning continues basically for the heart of Gibson County, just north in a line between Brazil, just north of Trenton, through Bradford, Greenfield, and towards Gleason, rather, there in southern Weakley County. And that flash flood warning, I think it's going to go till 6:15, was it, or 5:30? Oh, no, that's the tornado warning. I think the flash flood warning is going to go until 6.
Okay, I'm going to look at that here. Flash flood warning, it looks like until 8 a.m.
8 a.m., even longer, which understandably, again, the rain continues all the way back towards the Mississippi River. With this particular band, we're not done. We still have more development that hasn't even started yet that we have to deal with. That's going to start making its way eastward across West Tennessee as well. We do expect it to be more of a line, a north-south oriented line that'll be pushing from west to east across West Tennessee during the mid to late morning hours, which mitigates somewhat the tornado threat. It doesn't remove it, but it certainly mitigates it a little bit. It makes it more of a damaging straight line wind threat versus a tornado threat. What we don't want to see is that. Notice how we have all these isolated storms out in front of that. That's what we don't want to see when that line starts to approach West Tennessee as we get into the lunchtime hour or so. So we're going to keep an eye on it as we get to that point of the day. Let's go ahead back tight here. Again, we've got a cluster of heavy rain making its way through northern Haywood County as well. Again, that's just plain old heavy rain right now. A lot of frequent lightning, maybe some small pea-sized hail with that as well. You're going to have some gusty winds with that as well. But the tornadic threat right now, the only one that's got our attention right now is particularly this one just north of the Henry community, where we still have just a little bit of a hook on that particular part of the storm, and lightning associated with that updraft, where we've got vigorous updrafts in that part of the storm. So if you were looking at it from a distance, you would see the billowing on the top of the storm there. That's what you would be looking at, and that's due to the updraft. There we go. We've got a correlation. Thank you, Brian. This is the technical term is correlation coefficient, but what it's looking for is debris. Essentially, it looks at all the hydrometeors in the sky, or water droplets, essentially. And whenever it sees something that's not the size, or is not the indicative of a water droplet, then it gives us a lower value, which are these cooler colors you're seeing here, down into the yellow and green and blue colors. When we see that can sometimes indicate debris or trees, branches, roofs, things like that being lofted into the storm. That's happened twice. Take a look at that.
So, yeah, there's some
right there.
Places in here where the correlation
that was
coefficient.
That first storm that it was a close call just north of Paris. So that was one of them.
Yeah, there could have been a little
with that first storm. The second one, not seeing that so much. Go back to Bradford with that first. Remember the initial tornado warning where we had a little bit of that damage. So we can go back there and take a look at that one.
Zoom out just a little bit here, and we'll roll back.
We'll see if we had the same indication again. This is shooting out from Paducah, so we are looking pretty high up in the storm here, which...
I tell you what, let me go to velocity mode. We'll go back to relative velocity. We can look at those gate-to-gate indications there, and then we can go to a correlation coefficient and kind of check it against that.
Debris tracker. I need to put a headline up there. It's essentially a debris tracker is what it is what we're looking at there. Okay, so there's the one... that one there. That was the initial one that initially prompted the first warning earlier. And of course, that one had a little bit of lowering in the CC as well.
Okay, let me go back. Okay, we're going to take it back an hour. Right there was about the time the warning came out, and we're just going forward in time. There's the storm that looks like it just kind of brushed through north of Paris. You can see the vivid green and red kind of side by side.
So we've got two areas specifically that we're really going to be watching here for damage. Right around, basically it went right through Bradford. It was a dead hit on, if not right to the north at best. Then maybe towards Gleason there in southern Weakley County. There might be maybe some damage there as well. And then another area we're watching is right here just north of Paris. That's where another one of those circulations went by, just to the north of there. We had a lowering in the CC, so that could also be dust, but getting pulled into the storm. Sure. Dust or a biological life. It could be biological life as well. Doesn't automatically mean it's a tornado. It just means that something wasn't a hydrometeor that the radar beam saw. That's essentially what you're seeing there when we see those cooler colors showing up. That's why you see so much of it down here to the south. Okay, so
that's going to be the flash flood warning for Crockett, Dyer, Haywood, Lauderdale until 7:30 this morning. Again,
new
flash flood warning.
Okay.
And
no
guys, I know we
there.
have flash flood quite often with these storms, but I would just want to emphasize that the way that this storm setup has been doing, these storms have been training along one batch of heavy rain. We're talking about up to 2 inches per hour moving along these storms. So this, is I don't want to say a more serious flash flood warning, but this is an event that where you may not see much flooding in typical flash flood warnings in your area. This is one of those situations where you could have a lot more water than you're used to seeing. So if you're in the low-lying areas, definitely try to get to higher ground, stay weather aware. This does have the potential to cause some major flash flooding within those low-lying areas. We're looking at the weather cam now, kind of focused off to the northwest, I believe, as you can see an abundance of lightning coming out of this system. It's been just flashing pretty much like a strobe light as we've been looking into this line of storms. Several inflow notches along this line, very torrentially heavy rain, some hail indicated in about 3 different areas. And Mo, even as we look at that right now, I mean, I see the lightning light up. You can see some lower clouds there. It looks very ominous looking at that weather
very
cam
ominous,
right
on that southern side. So that's where we're typically looking for that, where some of that, the warm, humid, that soupy storm, thunderstorm air or whatever, or
just
air,
getting out of the car this morning.
Storm fuel, that air. That's what these storms love.
Yeah.
They love that air, and when they get sucked into these storms with that rotation, that's what they're using in order to strengthen, essentially. So when we see those notches, we know that process is occurring, and of course that's what happened about half hour ago. Where
Absolutely.
We had 3 different spots where that was happening along the line where all 3 of the storms were strengthening all in a line, essentially, and that's what prompted National Weather Service to issue that tornado warning where that rotation and tightening up was happening in the mid to lower levels of the atmosphere. So let's go ahead and take a look at velocity again. And this is, again, green is showing winds that are blowing towards the radar, which, by the way, is in Paducah at this range. So that is in Paducah. And then red is, we don't see much red on the backsides of these light areas of green, and that is a good thing. We don't see much red, just a little bit here, just to the northwest of Paris. So a little bit of weak rotation just to the northwest of Paris. I don't think that's a tornado on the ground, but it is spinning. So we do need to watch that. So there is a little bit of rotation between New Boston and Paris, essentially, or Osage, or Osage. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. But basically between that and Paris. But notice the cell. Let's take a look at that base reflectivity again there.
Okay, going to base reflectivity here. There we are.
One more time. Yeah, there you go. Look at this. Notice that? Notice that shape? How has that hook on the end? There you go. So we know that storm. That's telling us that storm is spinning. It's pulling that warm, humid, moist air into the storm. That can potentially strengthen that rotation. That's why that's how the storm is feeding itself, essentially. And it's just to the north of Paris there, working off to the northeast there, basically paralleling Highway 79, U.S. Highway 79 at this point.
Let's go ahead and I'm going to put a track on that one because it really looks like it's tightening up. All right, let me roll it back just to get a sense of direction. But that just in the last
So the good news is
minutes,
it is north of Paris, away from the urban area there where there's a lot more folks there. But it is moving off to the northeast, probably about, 30, 35 miles per hour there.
Okay, I'm going to back it up here. It's going to try to get a track on this. I don't want to do it that way unless I just have to, but let's see. I mean, there's not a lot of population. There we go. I was just trying to get the computer to
Paris
identify.
Landing State Park. We got. If I get out the way, you could probably see the time there, couldn't you? There
I'll
you
move
go.
this up. There you go.
Freeland. That's Freeland by 5:45, 5:48, and Paris Landing State Park. So that's going to be in the northeastern corner near the Tennessee River there in Henry County. So this is now the 3rd rotation that's gone in that area. So we have that 3rd one that's making its way towards the northeastern corner in Henry County. County, and it looks like it might be tightening up again, Brian. Let's go back to over the velocity again on that last
I'm
scan.
going to draw out
really,
right in here.
See how that notch really started to tighten up? That can't start to push into the storm a little bit there. So this is almost in what we call an embedded supercell within the line itself. Okay, it's not showing up in reflectivity, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing, hopefully. But again, at the same time, we got to keep in mind that we're shooting out of Paducah right now, and by the time the radar beam is hitting that part of the storm, it's already at about 10,000 feet at that point. So we're probably looking at the very least, a mesocyclone that's moving its way off to the northeast there. But we're not seeing it so much in the velocity at this point, so that's a good thing. Back to the west, again, we've still got some heavy rain falling back across a good part of the areas that have been seeing the heavy rain over the last couple of hours now. Flash flood warning now extends essentially from Covington through Ripley, through northern Haywood County, through Crockett County, and into Gibson County as well for the flash flood warning there. But again, there we go. So they dropped the tornado warning. So no tornado warnings are in effect, although we are going to watch that rotation off air or off cam here in northern northern Henry County. We're going to kick it over to Good Morning West Tennessee here. We are in the middle of the show here. We'll have another look at your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Ashley?